Hey everyone, and welcome to another GameXplain discussion. I'm your host, Derek Bittner, and I'm joined today by John Cartwright to give our predictions for tomorrow's Pokémon Conference. So let's get started. So yeah, John, we actually have a Pokémon Conference tomorrow in addition to the Pokémon Direct next week, so tons of Pokémon news all of a sudden, although we're not really sure what they're going to be talking about in the Pokémon Conference. Now, the first time they had one of these, that's when we got Pokémon Go, and, well, that kind of blew up. And the last time we got both Pokémon Let's Go and Pokémon, I'm blanking on its name.
Pokémon Quest, Derek, the most important game of the year.
Right, I mean, that's such a memorable game that everybody's still playing to this day. So yeah, to be fair, they talked about big games during these Pokemon conference, these conferences. That said, I'm really not expecting much. Like, we might get a bit of information about Sword and Shield, but otherwise, I'm expecting a pretty low-key conference, mainly filled with spin-offs.
I mean, because both Pokemon Go and Let's Go were huge titles, but these clearly aren't conferences for quantity. Just kind of a couple of announcements. But the important thing here, though, is we're jumping into a new generation. So I wonder if they're going to reveal stuff outside of games, like go into the anime, go into cards, and just showcase some brand new Pokemon for the first time. And if they don't, then they're kind of limiting themselves, because the Sword and Shield presentation isn't for another week or so. So if they are showing spin-offs of Gen 8 games, they won't be able to show much because those Pokemon will be revealed in the Direct instead. So it's going to be interesting to see what they do with all this. But that said, it's kind of hard to predict Pokemon spin-offs, because sometimes they do entirely new ones, sometimes they do sequels, and there are some long-dormant spin-off franchises, like Mystery Dungeon, for instance. That's been dormant for a long time now. I know people want a new entry in that franchise. But one thing I am worried about is they also announced that DNA are working on a Pokemon game for mobile. And I feel like if there is a new Mystery Dungeon, it might very well be that DNA game.
You know, I was not thinking about that connection, but I was thinking that they'd announce what that Pokemon DNA game is, and, you know, you're not wrong. You know, it's entirely possible. And here's the thing, you know, if you follow Joe Merrick on Twitter, he is constantly asking for, like, legit spin-offs, not on mobile. You know, That said, I'm only expecting mobile. You know, I think that's where Pokemon tends to focus. That they might have more in that in along that line, and games like that. They're constantly releasing new Pokemon mobile games. You know, we just got one not too long ago, and it's just, yeah. I mean, it's hard to get excited about that sort of thing. So I completely understand where he's coming from. I think if Pokemon Mystery Dungeon is announced and it's for mobile, a lot of people are going to be disappointed, because that would be cool to have on the Switch.
It would, yeah, for sure. And I kind of expect something bigger than just a mobile spin-off in this conference. Just going off past precedent, like, of course Pokemon Go is a mobile game, but it's a huge mobile game. So if there is a Mystery Dungeon game, I want to get off the negativity here for a second. Let's say it is a Switch game. That'd be super cool, seeing all these Pokemon models, you know, in their high quality as you go around these dungeons. It's been a long time since the last one. It's quite early in the 3DS days, I believe, which, you know, that's a few years ago now. And to have it here on the Switch would be brilliant. You could even incorporate some kind of, like, better co-op in there as well.
Oh yeah, that'd be really cool. I mean, yeah, I think the last one we got was Super Mystery Dungeon, which I'm not sure how well that one was received, but yeah, it's just one of those things where people love these series. I've never gotten into it myself, but people love those games, and I think that's something that would get people really excited, especially if it's like, maybe not even come out this year, maybe it'll be out next year after oh gosh, we are up to Gen 8. I'm trying to remember. After Gen 8 is out, and take advantage of all the new Pokemon, you know, have Sobble and all of them in there. And the thing is, it's usually only the starters that pop up in those, as well as some other popular ones. But they can totally do a preview for this just by showing those starters as options for a new Mystery Dungeon game, and go from there. You know, that's cool in and of itself. Personally, I wouldn't mind a new Pokemon Conquest game, but, you know, that's I think that franchise is dead.
Well, yeah, it probably is dead, but going off something a bit similar, what if we had a Pokemon Musou game? We've had a lot of Nintendo Musou franchises, being, you know, Zelda and Fire Emblem, and Star Fox was once pitched. But imagine a Musou Pokemon game, where you have, like, waves and waves of, I don't know, like, Let's say there's waves of Pikachu, like 100 Pikachu, and you're just sort of battling against them. And it kind of has that Fire Emblem mechanic where certain Pokemon are stronger against other ones, so you have to sort of like manage your characters and attack, with those types in mind. I think that could work really well to the Pokemon formula.
It could. I don't really see Pokemon Company going for that because you just described beating up waves and waves of Pikachu. That's a Pokemon Muso game would be really cool, but I have a feeling that there's no way they'd go for it because it's just like you have the only thing you can fight is other Pokemons, and if you have huge waves of them, I don't know, it just doesn't quite seem like they would want to do that. Go that
Probably
route.
Not. Though, I guess we've seen that kind of thing almost in Detective Pikachu, where they kind of turn expectations on your head a bit, and they get darker with the Pokemon franchise. So, what if there's some kind of twist as well, or what if there's like shadow Pokemon that you're fighting? So then you're not just beating up waves of innocent creatures; you're instead like trying to.
They're love taps.
Yeah, exactly.
Oh, good. I mean, it's possible. You can explain your way around anything. So if they really wanted a Muso game, they could totally do it. There's possibilities there. As far as I'm trying to think of like other mobile games. Actually, you know what? Going away from that, I do think we'll see a little bit of Sword and Shield. Just like a little tease for what's coming up in the Direct, whether it's a new Pokemon or a new form or something like that. I think we'll get a little taste of what's to come, because as you said, they showed off Let's Go in one of these conferences. So I think we might get maybe a little bit more along those lines and maybe get a little information about Sword and Shield.
We'll probably see a little clip of them walking around the first route. But even if it's just pure gameplay, there could be some Megatons in there. Like, what if the camera moves, for instance? That would be huge. We had like maybe a little tease of it perhaps in the trailer. Probably not. It's probably just development tools. But if the camera can move, I know people will be very happy about that.
Yeah, it'd be really cool. Have a lot of potential with just how, well, I guess the scope of Sword and Shield, because that is the big question, especially with that one central area in Galar. So we'll have to see, but I mean, that's what makes this so hard to predict, because there's tons of different spin-offs they could go with, tons of different mobile ideas they can go with. Which way will they actually go? It also could be just something completely new. Heck, they could bring back that Pokemon racing game just on mobile. Swipe your finger like
Pokemon
crazy. Dash, that's it.
Oh, I hope not. That was dreadful. One thing that did come and go was Detective Pikachu. There was a movie a couple of weeks ago now, and I expected that we would get a Switch port to go hand in hand with that, and we didn't. But I guess now it's not too late. Detective Pikachu is a pretty big franchise in and of itself at the moment. So some kind of just Switch port of the first game, and maybe a tease to a sequel would be great. Because there was kind of a tease to a sequel at the end of the 3DS Detective Pikachu. Oh
yeah, absolutely. It actually has better sequel potential than the actual movie. Go figure. Yeah, I could see that, having a port, or just announcing Detective Pikachu to build off of it that way, and get some ideas of what the next movie could do if it does well enough that it does get a sequel. I think that'd be a good idea, honestly. Because I did really enjoy Detective Pikachu.
Get Ryan Reynolds in to voice him in the sequel. It may be a bit expensive, but
maybe.
We'll see.
I think that would be most of the budget. Yeah. Do we dare say it? I mean, I'm going to bring it up just because it always gets brought up, but it's not happening. I'm going to be dead. I'm going to be crystal clear here. There is no way Pokemon Snap is happening.
It'd be great if it did, though. I know a lot of people also say, like, what if it was the Labo VR camera? And that would be cool as well. But the thing is, that's kind of a niche within a niche right there. It'd be cool if they had a Snap 2 and then, functionality with the Labo VR camera. That would be great. But yeah, Snap is one of my favourite spin-offs personally. But it has been a long time, and they've not brought it back, even though there's been potential with the Wii U gamepad, with the 3DS gyroscope, with mobile. All those platforms would have worked, and they didn't do it. So I don't know why now is really the time. Yeah,
and doesn't, unless they're just like, hey, they're still asking for it. Maybe we should actually do this. I don't know.
Yeah, I mean, it would be really cool though, because the first Pokemon Snap maybe had 50 Pokemon in total, I think, And to then like make the pool of Pokemon up to a selection of 800, that's a huge jump already. And as it was, Pokemon Snap was just a really accessible game. I know people who aren't really into Pokemon who love Pokemon Snap. I think Andre likes Pokemon Snap. So
yeah, he does.
it's just a great way to sort of squeeze into the franchise a bit.
Yeah, I mean, it makes sense. It's just a matter of actually getting them to, do it.
Exactly.
But you're right. I mean, there are other aspects of Pokemon to talk about beyond the games. I mean, we do have that new Pokemon movie coming out with the 3D remake of Mewtwo Strikes Back. They might talk about that a little bit. They might, talk about the mobile division or maybe what's coming next for the anime series if they want to get into that. Hard to say. I am generally keeping my expectations pretty low for this conference.
I think that's the best thing to do, because the best case scenario, your expectations are exceeded. Worst case scenario, you're very disappointed, because their big game is already announced. Sword and Shield is already coming. So what more can they really do other than spin-offs? That said, though, there are still a lot of spin-offs they can do. We had Pokkén DX come out on the Switch. I think it was 2017, and that was a great enhanced version. Added new Pokemon, added all the arcade Pokemon in there too. But what if they did a new Pokkén around, not just around Gen 8, but sort of expanding the roster as well, and including Gen 8 Pokemon? I think that could be really cool, because honestly, next to Snap, I'd say Pokkén's probably my favourite spin-off as well.
Oh wow, nice. Yeah, I mean, Pokemon Snap definitely has some room to grow. It's single player definitely could use some work, and it could definitely use an expanded roster. I'm not sure, because it felt to me like usually the Switch ports blew up so much more than the original versions on Wii U, and I never got that sense from Pokkén Tournament DX.
Right.
It was sort of a popped in and okay, and then everybody moved on.
Yeah, I think it outsold the Wii U version, but that's not really saying much.
Yeah.
And you're right, though, it didn't blow up. It wasn't the Mario Kart 8 Deluxe of Pokkén. It was just it's just a re-release, and nothing really happened after that. But it was a cool game in and of itself, though.
Oh yeah. Yeah, there's some great elements to Pokkén that really do work, and a sequel could really help improve some of the shortcomings of that game, and I'd love to see it.
Yeah, and you're totally right about the single player. That was just non-stop fight after fight. It was so tedious. One thing they could do to kind of make it a bit more exciting is what if you kind of had like a Pokemon Colosseum style overworld, where there's a story mode, and it kind of plays like the RPGs, apart from instead of battling in turn-based battles, the entire point is just to add context to Pokkén battles. So it's not like a full-on RPG, but just like more of a story mode than what they had already.
Start taking the Mortal Kombat approach of storytelling.
Right, exactly.
I mean, it's possible. I mean, it would certainly make it a lot more interesting, but whether they actually go that way or not, hard to say. That's the crazy thing with Pokemon. It has so many spin-offs that it could really be anything. Just run the gamut of possibilities. We could see a Magikarp jump too, and who knows? And nobody expected a Magikarp jump, so maybe it'll be a Phoebus jump or something like that. Pokemon has so many different ideas that they can go in any number of directions, which makes predicting like what new games will they announce really difficult.
Sure, absolutely. But I am a bit surprised that Pokemon's been around for as long as it has, and I don't think there's been a sports spin-off before. It'd be kind of cool to see that. Like, what if we had like a Pokemon football game where you're like kicking around a Voltorb and and you have every Pokemon is like have I don't know, like weight differences, and that affects their stamina and how much power they have. Just something like that. I don't know what other sports you could do. I guess Pokemon basketball or anything like that.
I mean, I think they'd played baseball once in the anime. I'm not sure.
I think you're right. They did.
So, yeah, adapt that. Was that a popular episode? I'm not sure, but there you go.
Maybe.
Oh, goodness. That'd be something. A Pokemon sports game. Okay. They could do another, like, sort of game like Pokemon XD and get a proper sequel to that, or any number of things. Like there's so many possibilities that it's hard to narrow down like what it might be. And
right,
yeah.
And it's a bit harder than it was a few years ago, because back on the GameCube and N64, you could say like Pokémon Colosseum, Pokémon Stadium, because those games were basically the opportunity to show Pokémon in 3D. Whereas now the mainline games do that, and it kind of makes those invalid. So yeah, it's a lot harder, especially with mobile in the mix as well. That said though, I do think a few of these could happen. I think Detective Pikachu is a very likely one, just given how big the franchise has become, and they haven't done anything with it since the movie. So I think that's a very likely one, but I don't know if that would carry the entire conference though.
Maybe not carry the entire conference, but I can see Detective Pikachu being like, here's our console game, here's one or two new mobile games, like here's a DNA game, here's another game we were working on that's coming to mobile, and you know, let's go crazy. Here's Pokemon trading card game sequel on Switch.
Ooh. That'd be great. And that in tabletop mode as well. If you have like two Switches locally and just put them back to back, that would work so well.
Oh yeah, that'd be really cool. I mean, I'd be totally down for that. Find a way to get back into the trading card game and play it that way. Because I know it's had a lot of changes since I played it.
Here's a scary premise. Pokemon trading card amiibo. So you scan in your cards just like the amiibo Animal Crossing cards and play like that. that'd be something. But yeah, I mean, I'm definitely curious to see what Pokemon Company has to show for this conference. But I mean, I'm kind of tapped on predictions. Like I could rattle off thing after thing after thing after thing. But you know, I think realistically, I think we've listed off what is most likely. For sure. Though we didn't mention Puzzle League, that's of course going to happen.
Oh yeah,
no doubt.
That would get me the most excited if Pokemon finally brought Puzzle League back. If only.
But then again, yeah, the chance of that happening is very, very, very slim. But it would be great if they did.
Alright, well I think that covers it for our Pokemon Conference predictions, so thank you for watching, and if you like this video, be sure to like us on Facebook and Twitter at GameXplain. And of course, make sure to subscribe to GameXplain for more on Pokemon and other things gaming as well. Until next time, bye.